Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. You're watching and listening to the Scott Townsend Show. Today I have with me back again Keith Clark. Keith, how's it going, man?
Going great. How you doing, Scott?
Good, good. So, as always, what'd you have for breakfast?
Oatmeal. Again? And some chocolate chip cookies.
Breakfast of champions. Oh, man. So the other day I was talking to Keith about, or Keith brought up the fact that his anniversary of his heart attack, I guess. That's a weird one to celebrate. Or not really celebrating, but it was how many years ago when you had your heart attack and you're just not that old?
It was 6 years ago today.
So how old were you then?
I was 50 years old.
Oh, yeah? So where were you? How did you find out? What's the backstory there? What happened?
Okay. So I was actually in Missouri on a business trip, and I was actually in Chesterfield, Missouri, but I wasn't supposed to be in Chesterfield, Missouri that day because I'd planned on staying south in Missouri, but something came up a few days before that diverted me to go to Chesterfield.
So you're in Chesterfield, and are you an FBO there, or?
Yes, I was at this airport there at Chesterfield, Missouri.
And so what happened? Start feeling bad?
Actually, I didn't feel that bad. I had some weird sensations, and my daughter-in-law had the cold, so I thought I was just coming down with the cold or something. And I was thinking, great, I'm in Chesterfield, Missouri on a business trip, 6 hours from home, and I'm getting sick. I got really low blood pressure. So when I get sick sometimes, I get lightheaded. And I thought, man, I'm getting sick. So I decided this isn't good, 6 hours from home. So I ended up going to, after I got done with my meeting with the FBO manager, I decided, man, I don't feel right. So being away from home, I had no place to go. I couldn't just go home. If I'd have been home in Bartlesville, I would have just drove home and went to sleep. But instead, I decided, what would I do? What should I do?
So your symptoms were you were lightheaded and low blood pressure, and was that it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any chest pain at all. So I decided, when I do bicycle rides, I got my Google Maps. If I need a place to eat, I just type in where to eat. So I typed in emergency room near me, and it said that direction. So I jumped in my rental car, and I'm driving down the interstate. It was about lunchtime, and I thought at first, maybe I'm just hungry. So I ended up going down the interstate, which probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I actually started feeling better. About that time, my Google Maps said, exit here. So I exited, said turn left, and I decided I'm just going to go find something to eat. Well, when I turned left, there was nothing out there. So I turned left, and I went down the road about a mile, and it said, turn right. And it said Chesterfield, or St. Luke's Hospital in Chesterfield, Missouri. So I drove into the parking lot, and I saw a sign that said, emergency room to your right, straight ahead to parking. I said, I'm not going to the emergency room. I'm just going to go up to the parking lot. I'm going to park right there, and then I'm going to think about this, see how I feel in 10 minutes, and then I'm getting out of here. It was December 10th, 2014. I didn't want to go to the doctor.
What time was it?
It was about 11:45, somewhere in that area. So
in the morning.
In the morning.
So do you feel kind of silly going into the emergency room just because you think you have a cold, or?
That, and I didn't want to spend the money.
Right.
It was going to go against my deductible. I hadn't been to the doctor all year. I was thinking, this is all coming out of my pocket. I see a door that said emergency room, and I walk in there, and I didn't realize it, but I had my hand kind of over my chest a little bit, and the lady kind of looked at me because I kind of came in the back door of the emergency room, and she goes, can I help you? And I said, I don't feel good. And she said, are you having a heart attack? And I said, no, I'm not having a heart attack. I'm sick. And she goes, are you sure you're not having a heart attack? I said, no, I'm not having a heart attack. So the next thing I know, they rushed me into this room and lay me down. 2 or 3 doctors come in, nurses, they're doing an EKG on me. They're drawing blood from me. And, they're asking all these questions. And I'm like, I'm not having a heart attack. So pretty soon I'm laying there. And the room I was in was actually right behind the lady that works the ER desk. So I could see everybody coming in. I'm laying back there and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm not even sure it was an actual room, but probably just a
closet.
But yeah, closet or something with a bed in it where they throw people that walk in the back door.
Yeah.
But so that's where I stay for a while. And then
Just
about an hour later.
An hour, you're in this little room for an hour? Well, of course, that's not unusual for an emergency room.
Yeah. I mean, they'd done the EKG and they said it was okay. Pretty soon they came back and said, well, we got your blood work back and it looks okay. How you feeling? And I said, well, I'm feeling better. Been laying here for an hour and 30 minutes. And he goes, well, why don't you stay here for another hour or so and we'll see how you're doing. So they left. I laid there another hour.
Did they give me a baby aspirin or anything?
I don't think so. I don't remember that. So they came back about 4 o'clock, and the doctor, emergency room doctor, goes, well, you told us that you'd had a stress test done a year and a half ago. You told us that you'd ridden your bicycle across Iowa and across Michigan this year and across Pennsylvania to D.C. And he goes, you're in good shape. You look healthy. And all the blood work came back good, the EKG. He goes, we're going to let you go home. And I said, and then he kind of paused. And he looked at me and goes, or if you want to stay overnight, I'll schedule you a stress test in the morning and you can do a stress test. So the whole time I was laying there for 4 hours, I was thinking, this was stupid. I just spent thousands of dollars out of my pocket because it's at the end of the year. I'm not going to, this is all coming out of my deductible. So when he told me, gave me an option, I said, hey, I don't have a hotel room. I'm supposed to be in Springfield, Missouri right now. I'm 4 hours behind. So I'm not going to make it to Springfield tonight. So I said, put me in the hospital. Let's do a stress test. Because at least that way I'll get something out of my thing. Mm-hmm. And the last time I had the stress test done in Tulsa, it took like 2 months to get me in.
Wow.
Because, so that's how I ended up in the hospital that night.
Wow. So you spent the night in the hospital. You talked, I guess you called home and told friends and family.
I told my wife, Della, she's like, you actually went to the hospital? Because she knows I hate hospitals, especially emergency rooms. They're expensive. So I said, yeah, but I'm going to stay overnight in the hospital. Didn't have any place to stay anyway, so I thought, well, insurance will pay for this problem. Yeah, might as well be a hospital. They'll feed me, So I'm up in my hospital room. No bath. So I'm up in my hospital room, and pretty soon, guy walks in the door. The nurses took me out there, and put me in. And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden this guy, Dr. Hurry, walks in.
Same day?
Same day. Just probably 30 minutes after I got into the hospital room. Now it's like 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I missed dinner because in the transition from the emergency room to the hospital. But Dr. Hurry came in and introduced himself and said he was a heart doctor. And he said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, why are you here? I said, well, I don't feel good. He goes, did you have a heart attack? I said, no, all the tests came back negative. And he goes, well, tell me about what's, happening. I said, well, where do you want me to start? And the doctor said, well, start from the beginning. So when he said that, I said, okay. So I went all the way back 10 years. I went to when I was 40 years old. I don't think he intended me to say this, but I ended up talking about how my dad had a heart attack at 60. And, I didn't want to have heart issues. So I started riding a bicycle, and I rode my bicycle and did all this crazy stuff. And he just sat there and listened. He never said a word. And I kept talking. Imagine that. So we get to talking, and I go through the whole thing, and I go tell him about 18 months earlier I'd had a stress test done because my cousin had had some heart issues, and I got kind of nervous. And my bicycle performance had kind of gone down, but I said, hey, I'm getting older, you know, I should slow down a little bit.
Right.
So from there, he goes, hey, I finally get all the way up to current, you know, my 3 bicycle trips this summer, and I ran out of stuff to talk about. And he said, I got one question for you, Keith. But he goes, I want you to think about this question before you answer it. And he looked at me and he said, are you thinking? And I said, you haven't asked me the question yet. He goes, I just want to make sure. He goes, I don't want a quick answer. I want you to think and then answer. So his question was this. In 2013, you had a stress test done at the beginning of the summer. Everything came back good. You rode your bicycle the entire 2013. Now we're in 2014 at the end of the year. You rode your bicycle in 2014. Did you feel better at the end of 2014, or did you feel worse at the end of 2014? Because you've told me that over the last few years you've gone down in performance, and your buddies have said, hey, you're slowing down. And you just tell me it's old age, but he said, I want you to think about that. And I said, never had that question. And I said, I felt worse. And he said, that's what I thought. He said, forget the stress test. We're going to do a heart cath. And I said, whoa, doc. A heart cath is not, stress test is nothing. I've done those before. Heart cath is going inside of me and sticking a tube up in there and looking. He goes, I don't think it's your heart. But he said, there's something going on. You don't go from an avid cyclist and just slow down over a couple-year period for no reason, unless there's something medical. And
You
I
just
looked at
want to
him
go
and
up and take pictures or take a look inside?
yeah, he wanted to send his little camera, or however they do the heart cath, and go up and actually look at the arteries in my heart. So he says, that's my professional opinion. And I sat there and I said, man, I'm in Chesterfield, Missouri. I'm all by myself, 6 hours away. This is no longer just a stress test. So I thought about it for a few minutes and I said, when could we do it? He said, let me go check. So he went out, he came back and he said, I can do it at 1 o'clock tomorrow. I was in there on a Tuesday, 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And I looked at him, I said, you just filled up your schedule. And he said, yeah, I did that too. But he goes, this is what you need done. We got to rule out your heart, and then we're going to figure out what's wrong with you. So I finally agreed to it. I signed the papers. You know, it's a little bit more serious than a stress test. And he told me, he goes, here's what we're going to do, Keith. We're going to do another blood test tonight. In the morning, we're going to do another blood test. That'll be number 3. We're going to do an EKG in the morning. And then at 1 o'clock, we're going to go in and do a heart cath, and we're going to rule out your heart, and then we're going to start looking at what's wrong with you. Why are you slowing down? So I called my wife, said, honey, things have changed. No longer doing a stress test, we're doing a heart cath. And she was like, what? I said, everything's cool. I didn't have a heart attack. We're going to rule out my heart, and then, we'll have some good results, and we'll go from there. So she wasn't too excited about me being 6 hours away, and I told her, no, you don't need to drive up here. I'm okay. By the time you got here, the test will be done.
Go back.
Yeah, you turn around and go back. I said, don't worry about that. So I will say that's not good advice, to tell your wife, because it's like you don't really need her, but I kind of really wanted her there, but it was, I didn't want to put her out, and I was thinking,
right, because you just got to drive 6 hours and
one way,
and that's kind of unsafe. Yeah.
So I went to bed that night to go on. They came and drew my blood. I finally got some food. The nurse came by and said, did you ever get something to eat? And I said, no. So they went down and found me something to eat. And, because I never had lunch because
Man.
Good thing I had oatmeal that morning and pancakes at the Holiday Inn. But so I ended up going to bed, thinking, all right, tomorrow we're going to do a stress or a heart cath and see what's going on. So I went to sleep thinking I'm going to wake up in the morning and this whole thing will be over. And that's when things got strange. So I'm sound asleep, and all of a sudden, 3 nurses walk in with the lights on, and they're shaking me, saying, wake up, wake up. And I'm thinking, where the heck am I? I was deep into sleep. And I'm looking at the nurses.
Ladies,
and
get out of here. I'm trying to go to sleep.
yeah, the nurses were messing with my feet. One of them was grabbing my arm and pulling my gown back and putting all these little test things on me, EKG little probes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is going on? She goes, we got to do an EKG. And I said, I thought we were going to do this in the morning. And she said, looks up at the clock, and it says 12:30. She goes, technically it is the morning. I said, it's 12:30 at midnight, just after midnight. She said, well, it's the morning. And then she said something that I'll never forget. She said, you had a heart attack today. And I said, what? She said, your second blood test came back positive for the enzyme that says you had a heart attack.
Troponin or troponin or...
Yeah, tropone or something like that. Troponin. And,
Troponin.
I'd never heard of that enzyme. I had no idea when they did the blood test what they were even looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they're looking for. That enzyme's in your blood for like 24 to 48 hours, and then it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I just laid there, and they were messing with my feet, putting nitroglycerin patches on my legs to lower my blood pressure even more. And they put a heart monitor on me, so now I got all these wires coming out of me. And now all of a sudden, it's no longer just a routine. Now they know I had a heart attack, and now they're going in for a heart cath to see what the heck's going on.
Then?
So, what? No, they waited. They monitored me all night, but my 1 o'clock appointment, I got moved up to the fast track. So I think it was about 9:30 that they came and got me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget, there was 2 or 3 of the heart cath nurses that do that part came up to get me, and they moved me over to the little gurney thing. And one of the nurses said, how did you end up in Chesterfield, Missouri? Because they'd seen that I was from Oklahoma. I said, I was on a business trip. And she goes, how'd you pick this hospital? I said, I Googled it. And it said, hospital near me. So I went. And I'll never forget what she told me. She said, you're in good hands. She said, Dr. Hurry, the doctor that's going to be doing this procedure, the one that talked to you last night, there's 7 or 8 doctors. They're all good, but he's the best. She said, if I had any problems, I would pick him. He practices at the main hospital in St. Louis, but one day a week he comes over to Chesterfield. And I just happened to come in on the day that he was going to be there the next day. So
seems like it's really rare that a doctor will listen to you for more than 5 minutes, much less 15 or 20.
Yeah. What's really interesting, and I'll tell you the story in just a second. So I go down now knowing, I'm still in shock, I think, because I've had a heart attack.
So did you call anybody at work, let them know where you were?
Yeah, my boss knew I was in the hospital, and my wife knew I was there. My son was actually in Missouri at, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. God, the mind. Get old. It goes, man. But he was in Cape Girardeau, so he, I talked to him the night before, and I said, no, you don't need to come up. And he said, well, I said, by the time you got up here, everything's going to be good. This was before I had the heart attack. But he came anyway. One of the guys that he works with told another guy, said, drive him up there. His dad's up there in the hospital. He needs family. So my son and Aaron, guy that worked there that I knew also, they drove up, and they got there right before they wheeled me out of my room. So I talked to him for like 10 minutes. But it was good to have somebody there. So in the procedure, I don't know how long it took. It seemed like hours, but it wasn't. Pretty soon I was back in my room in recovery. And
so they put you out to do that?
Yeah, they don't put you out totally because the you're kind of just in and out. Well, my problem is my since I had the nitroglycerin on, my heart rate was so low that I didn't see the they couldn't put me out all the way because nitroglycerin lowered my heart rate. You know, it was beating like at 85 over 50 or something. So I was kind of awake the whole time. I could feel the probe or whatever they sent up there going up. It was
You
weird.
could?
I could hear them talking, but I didn't understand what they were saying. And they ended up doing putting 2 stents in. I had 2 out of my 3 arteries, the main arteries, clogged. One of them was over 95%. The other one was 99 or 98, but basically 100%.
Right.
So 2 out of the
So
3
there really
main
was a
arteries.
problem.
It was a serious problem. I was a walking time bomb that I didn't even know. And I never had that feeling of the chest hurt or anything. But here's the story that's crazy. And I found this out afterwards. So Dr. Hurry put in 2 stents. I'm in recovery. He comes back and tells me that he put in 2 stents and that everything went good. Everything else, looked pretty good in there. But he said, I want to tell you a story, Keith. He said, when you told me your story last night about how you was an avid bicycle rider, it reminded me of a friend of mine that had a brother that was an avid bicycle rider. And his brother was an avid bicycle rider. And the older brother started slowing down. He couldn't keep up with his buddies. So he ended up stopped riding because it was no fun because his buddies were always having to wait on him and all this. And he said, one day about a year later, big brother went to see little brother, and little brother had multiple bikes. That's one thing about bicycle riders. We always have extra bicycles. And little brother says, hey, get on this bicycle and let's go for a short ride. Well, little brother takes off and yells at him, hey, old man, see if you can catch me. Being competitive, the old man took off after him. And
Wasn't an old man, but
he wasn't an old man. Yeah,
Sure.
He was my age. What's crazy? So the guy starts pedaling really hard to try to catch his little brother. He has a massive heart attack. He hits the ground. It basically shocks his heart back. He lives. He ends up going in. He's about the same age as me. He also had 2 clogged arteries. He was an avid bicycle rider like me prior. He had stopped because he couldn't keep up with his buddies. And the doctor said, not only did your story and all that, he says, he even looked like you. So what's the chances of being in Chesterfield, Missouri, at a hospital I Googled, getting Dr. Hurley and telling my story, And as I said before, if I would have been home in Bartlesville at work and started feeling bad, I'd have just gone home and went to sleep. I wouldn't have gone to the hospital. No way.
which would have meant you would probably have kicked it.
Sooner or later, it was going to take me down because when you have 2 arteries out of 3 that are almost clogged. So
Well, it
what's
sounds
amazing,
like one was clogged. They both were clogged bad.
Both were clogged bad. Both required stents. So what's crazy is because of that business trip, I ended up in Chesterfield. And I wasn't even supposed to be in Chesterfield. Remember, I was supposed to be in the southern part of Missouri, but due to the fact that something came up a few days before I left, the FBO called me and they'd just been inspected and they had an issue and they were they weren't griping about it, but they didn't understand it. And finally I said, hey, are you going to be there Tuesday? I'm just going to divert my trip. Instead of going south to southern Missouri and Arkansas home, I'm going to go north and go up to Chesterfield and we'll finish this conversation in person. Because of that decision, it put me in Chesterfield. So
Synchronicity, baby.
So some people say, the doctor saved me. I don't look at it that way, because I look at it totally different. The doctor did save me, but God put me there in that position because I would have never gone if I was in Bartlesville. The other thing I learned, do this thing, and Dr. Hurley saw that same story that he had seen years earlier. So, you know, I always say saved by the grace of God. It is, because 12/10/14 is a day I'll never forget. I might forget my birthday someday, but when you have a near that 12/10, I had a heart attack that day. When I did the first blood test, it was too soon. It didn't show up. But Dr. Hurry did the second blood test, and it did show up. And if I would have gone home, it would have been gone by the time they did a blood test. So my advice to everybody is always do 3 blood tests. Do one. If you pass it, 6 to 8 hours later, do another one. If you pass that one, do a third one. If you pass 3 blood tests over 24 hours, you probably didn't have a heart attack.
Right.
But always be on the safe side, and, you know,
while you're there and, you know, everything, they got all the equipment out, just ride it out.
Yeah, don't, you know, because I could have very easily, when the doctor gave me the choice to go home, I could have. But something told me to stay. Partly it was finances. I didn't want to get nothing for my money. I said, hey. So
I'm paying for this thing. We're going all the way, baby.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So anybody out there who's not feeling too well, and you're our age now, which is, you know, not bad. We're feeling good and looking good, but you know, you never know. So
always err on the side of safety.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to tell you the story sometime about my trip to Las Vegas. So while Keith walked away from the camera, yeah. So I had a issue in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. Woke up in the middle of the night in the where were we? The Monte Carlo. We were there for an event that we were putting on. And
check it out.
There you go. There you go.
Scott Townsend shirt.
The Scott Townsend show.
Barcode on the back.
All right.
So I think this is the first one.
That is the first one. Congratulations.
So
that is the first one.
Yeah. So it
looks
fits.
Good.
Yeah. So
does it
if
fit
you guys
okay?
Want to buy a shirt? Yeah. If you want to buy a shirt, Scott will tell you where to buy it from.
Go buy a shirt. It's in the merch store and the show notes down below, and the podcast, and on YouTube. That looks good.
Yeah, it's cool. I got your face on my shirt now. So. So this will be my second favorite shirt.
Yeah.
Still Not Dead and the Scott Townsend Show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so we have a merch store. Yeah, on the in the show notes, through Teespring, and yeah, so that's cool. So yeah, everybody needs to go out there and buy a whole bunch of T-shirts and coffee mugs, and we'll see how it goes.
I'll even make a special deal. If you watch this video,
if you watch this video, and you like the Scott Townsend YouTube page over the next 2 weeks, we'll draw out one lucky winner, and I'll buy a shirt and ship it to your house. So that's 12,
can't beat a deal like that.
12. It's December. We'll see. We're going to air this on December 10. So the next 2 weeks from December 10 to.
Actually, let's go to Christmas Day. That's a great day.
Oh, okay.
December 25th.
So what do they have to do now? Just make a comment or say?
No, they got to like the YouTube or the Scott Townsend. Well, you can either make a comment.
Make a comment, because there's a lot of times if they subscribe, sometimes I can and sometimes I can't see who subscribes. Okay. If I'm friends with them, then I can.
Yeah, so go make a comment that says you subscribed and you want a chance for the T-shirt, and put your size down, because we got to know your size.
Right.
Don't put your address. We'll contact you back.
Right.
And put your email or something. We'll figure out a way to get a hold of you.
Yeah. So leave your comments down below on the YouTube channel. What about on iTunes?
Yeah, we can do that too.
Podcast.
We'll do 2 shirts.
No,
what the heck?
Just do one. But I mean, we'll collect the comments from either the iTunes Scott Townsend Show channel or the YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And on December 25th, we'll have a big drawing and see who the lucky winner is. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Cool.
Yeah. So
good job.
You know, and the one thing about this video, share it with your friends, because share it on your page, because you never know, there might be another Keith out there that's going to not go to the doctor or not go to the emergency room. But, you know, I've told this story to a lot of people, and this is one reason I wanted to do this story on the 6th anniversary. I've got 6 years after it. I could have been dead. I think I called a couple of my friends, and one of them made the comment. I said, I was the most fit person of all my friends, And one of my friends that smokes cigarettes, which we won't talk about, but he should quit, he said, yeah, God sent a message to you because you're the only one that could take a hit and get back up. He goes, you would have taken me a heart attack, I'd probably be dead now. So keep that in mind, be smart, but share this with somebody to say, hey, understand the 3 blood test thing. Talk to your doctor, if you're not feeling right. Don't just get a stress test that comes back good and say, I'm okay, when you're still not okay. And that's the key thing is I should have, back in April of 2013, I should have said, hey, doc, okay, my stress test came back, but why do I feel this way? I should have kept on, but all I did was hold up a piece of paper in front of my wife that says, I'm good, back to bicycle riding. But I wasn't.
So that reminds me, after I came back from that Vegas trip, after what happened to me there, that's why you kept bugging me to get Keith was like, you got to get a blood test. You got to get a blood test. You got to follow up another blood test. And I was like, dang, dude.
I know.
And
I
did.
If I would have known you were having problems in Vegas, you wouldn't have left Vegas. You would have stayed 24 hours in Vegas. I'm like, dude, 3 blood tests.
All right. So everybody out there, take care of yourself as always. And if you start having chest problems, issues, of course, we're not doctors, can't prescribe anything, but take it from us and our experiences. You need to go in, get it checked out, and prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. Get your oatmeal. Watch what you eat. Of course, I'm one to talk there. I should just stop. But
we're going to start walking. We're going to walk up. You know where we're going to walk up? The tallest hill in Oklahoma. Yeah. If you don't know where that is, we'll have to tell you on another day.
Oh,
you just told him. All right.
All right, man. So anyway, for Keith Clark, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching and listening to the Scott Townsend Show. And we'll talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.
The Scott Townsend Show is a Dietzo Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.